2024, guys. Welcome to my best and worst of the year lists. Yes, I am doing worst of the year this year, as I always do. This is a fun time for me. 2023 was full of great movies. From a lot of people's perspective, 2023 might be a little mediocre on the movie side, but for me, I found it to be a fantastic year again for movies. I think it was even better than 2022. 2022, I only gave 2 movies perfect scores. This year, or this past year, I should say, since it's now 2024, I gave 6 movies perfect scores. So I cannot wait to discuss my best and worst of the year lists. Today, we're starting off with the best of the year. Just keep in mind a few things. These are only my opinions. Your list is going to differ from mine. These are not full reviews. This is just summing up why I think that these are the best movies of the year. There's going to be more than 10. It's 15 here. I couldn't narrow it down. I almost had it narrowed down, but there were just other ones that I just wanted to talk about that I think deserved some recognition. So let's start off the list with some honorable mentions. Air. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Oppenheimer. Beau is Afraid. Naiad. Dumb Money. Infinity Pool. Missing. Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, The Little Mermaid, Polite Society, and Megan. Those were some great movies this year, but they didn't quite make the cut for the top 15. So coming in at number 15. Killers of the Flower Moon is really an examination by Martin Scorsese of what people with power will do to those who are less fortunate than us, in this case, Native American reservations. Leonardo DiCaprio is great in this movie. Robert De Niro is great, as he always is. Scorsese directs with a sharp eye for what the subject matter actually is. While it is maybe slightly too long and it feels slower paced, I think that that actually helps bring out a lot of what Scorsese is trying to tell with this story. Despite the long runtime, it was one of my favorite movies that I saw all year. At number 14, we have Fair Play. Fair Play is one of those ones that also kind of touches on power dynamics, but in this case, gender dynamics. And that's what I really loved about Fair Play. Fair Play is a movie that I know a lot of people have criticized a lot, and rightfully so, I believe, but this really struck a chord for me because workplace dynamics, gender roles, that's all stuff that we deal with on a daily basis. And I think that this movie actually hammers home the differences and the consequences as to what some of those dynamics are that are at play. And I think that's why this movie resonated with me so well this year. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem comes in at number 13. I loved this movie. This was a course correction for the Ninja Turtles movie franchise. I cannot wait to see what is next in regards to this world. I think that this was beautifully animated. It had a really cool story. The Ninja Turtles were as good as ever. I think that this is the best Ninja Turtles movie since Secret of the Ooze. Do I think it's better than Secret of the Ooze? Well, I'm a little bit biased. I love Secret of the Ooze. That's the one I grew up watching all the time. So no, but it is definitely up there, top tier, top 3, top 2 Ninja Turtles movies. And I hope that this animation style that has come into these types of movies stays, because I love it. This comic booky animation that just brings everything to life like it does in this movie. The Creed trilogy is rounded out here at number 12 with Creed 3. Jonathan Majors, despite all the controversy surrounding him, gives what I think is a career best performance. I did feel that this was probably the most personal of the Creed movies, obviously, because Creed has to fight his childhood friend, Dame Anderson. This is beautifully directed by Michael B. Jordan. He took a lot of inspiration from anime and translated that into the fight sequences that I thought were exhilarating. These were some of the best fight sequences in a boxing movie I have ever seen, and I cannot wait to see what's next in Creed 4. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 comes in at number 11, and this was a fond farewell indeed to our biggest group of idiots in the galaxy. This team, this cast really gives it their all. James Gunn creates a more personal story for Rocket, but also a darker tale that not only Rocket has to deal with, but the Guardians themselves, with the impact of Rocket's possible death weighing on them and other things weighing on Peter Quill, which I thought the movie did a fantastic job with. Its darker tone led for more of an emotional weight than we have ever gotten with the Guardians of the Galaxy in their solo movies. Maybe not in some other MCU movies. Maybe this outweighs them. And that's what makes James Gunn such a brilliant filmmaker. And I'm glad they brought him back and reinstated him for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, because if this was made by anybody else, it would not have had the impact that it did for this team in this movie. And there's also some exhilarating action sequences, including a one take in a hallway that I just found to be entertaining as hell. This was everything I wanted from a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It had the humor, it had the heart, it had the emotion, and it had the action. And just all the fun that you want from an MCU movie, while also diving a little bit into the darker depths of where you can go with the MCU. Coming in at number 10, we have Netflix's The Killer. A Netflix movie made this list. Actually, two of them have. Surprisingly, that's shocking. This is a return to form for David Fincher. I really loved the inner monologue style that he adopts here, with the killer, played by Michael Fassbender, going from target to target and him really just giving us his daily routine, how he operates. That's what I think makes a David Fincher movie when he's getting more into the psychological aspects of his characters or his story. And this does dive not only just from a character aspect, but into a story aspect more psychologically. And David Fincher's expertise lie there. And that's why I'm glad he returned to a genre like this. This was something that I felt like was missing from previous David Fincher movies for the past couple, maybe, that I just wanted from Fincher again. And I got it here. And that's why I loved The Killer. Coming in at number 9 is The Covenant, or Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, however you want to title it. I'm calling it The Covenant. The Covenant really shows you both sides of the US and Afghan war, how interpreters were as big of a component for both sides, especially the US side, and how they just never received the credit that they deserved. While Guy Ritchie's style is still present, he is more restrained in this movie. When he is making movies that are more straightforward like this, I think he's actually at his best, even though I love all his gangster stuff and he goes wild and crazy in those, but he knows when to tone it back. And this is a movie where he knew he had to tone it back. And I'm glad that he realized that, because his style necessarily, while it's still there, if it was fully stylistic, just wouldn't work for this movie. And luckily, he realized that. And Jake Gyllenhaal is phenomenal as always. This made me realize what some members of this war have to deal with. And I think that that's my long-lasting thought when I think about this movie. The Creator is at number 8, and I just rewatched this because I wanted to solidify it. The Creator is a visually breathtaking movie. It is so hard to believe that this was only made on an $80 million budget, with how much scale, scope, and size this movie has to cover. John David Washington is phenomenal as he is in everything, just like his father. Gareth Edwards directs this in a more subtle way. It's not a very action-heavy movie, but when the action hits, it feels like you are there. You are boots on the ground. It's a very minimalistic musical score that makes you feel like you are not just in the action scenes, but in the whole world that this movie is taking place in. I thought that this was one of the most original sci-fi movies I've seen in a long time, and I really hope that even though this movie didn't make as much money as it did at the box office, that filmmakers are still willing and creative and daring enough to create original sci-fi. The Iron Claw is a movie that will mentally break you. There is not a single moment of this movie I could not think of after it. It is so uplifting, but as you move towards the climax and where the movie is going, it's so heartbreaking and tragic. It's one of the most emotional movies of the year. Zac Efron completely disappears. He is unrecognizable in this role. Sean Durkin told the true story of the Von Erich family and really played into the idea that the Von Erich family has a Von Erich family curse with all the tragedy, devastation, and heartbreak that this movie has to offer, with a killer soundtrack that will leave you crying and in tears at the end. Number 6 is where we get into the movies that I thought were phenomenal. From here on out, the rest of the list is where I think these movies are perfect. And we have the horror movie Talk to Me. Talk to Me just riveted me. It felt like such a really interesting idea that I felt followed through on its execution. I don't know how, because a movie like this could fall so flat on its face, but it doesn't rely on lots of lore to keep it going. There's a lot of ambiguity with it. I thought that the scares were actually very well crafted and slightly disturbing at the same time, that made it my favorite horror movie of the year. I watched it about once or twice since, and it still holds up. When a horror movie can hold up, that's how you know that it's good. And when it can scare you, that's how you know it's good too. It did both. It may not necessarily have scared me in the way where it's like, oh, it's scary, but it scared me in the way where I was a little bit disturbed. Did its job, I'll say that. I know Kung Fu, number 5 coming in. Keanu kicking ass again. John Wick Chapter 4 is, I think, my favorite entry into the John Wick story. This possible final entry sees Keanu Reeves possibly going out with a bang, with each action set piece topping each other in this movie. From the raid at the Continental Hotel in Japan to the nightclub sequence to the last hour, which is balls to the wall insanity with the top down action sequence, the staircase action sequence, the chase through Paris. John Wick Chapter 4 felt like a closing chapter that elevated everything lore wise, and it made it feel like it was the most comic booky out of the 4, to the point where I feel this overtook the first one as the best of the franchise. I could watch this movie over and over again, and it never feels like it's as long as it is. It is so well choreographed with amazing stunts, amazing action sequences, some of the most fun I have had at the movies all year. And coming in at number 4 is going to be a new holiday classic, The Holdovers. The Holdovers, for me, I wasn't really sure what to expect, because I know Alexander Payne is hit or miss for a lot of people, but it really moved me. It really proved that just because you have somebody in your life, or you know, like a teacher or professor, whoever it may be, that you might not necessarily get along with, the more you get to know that person, the more you can form a bond with them and connect with them. And that's exactly what happens here. I thought Paul Giamatti was really good. It captured the Christmassy tone that I really wanted to. It felt very 1970s-ish. It felt like we were in a time machine. We had gone back in time. When movies do that, when they feel like they are of different times, I feel like that's when movies are attributing the past. For some reason, I am a massive sucker for those movies. I walked out of it loving it. And I just love where the characters end up at the end. I love how the characters grow to respect each other. Davine Joy Randolph, or Davine Randolph Joy, she's phenomenal in this movie as well. This group of characters just bonding is what makes this movie so special. Number 3 is Suzume. This is a Japanese anime film. I loved every second of this. There's just Japanese anime just opens up another creative realm in people. How people come up with stories like this, I have no idea. When I'm this emotionally invested in a character that's a chair, that's saying something. And just the magic the lore behind this whole journey that Suzume goes on, I just felt really roped in. It felt very original to me, and I felt like I was just on some fantasy epic adventure that I had never been on before. Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse is the best comic book movie of the year. Its comic book animation style is even better than it was in Into the Spider-Verse. This is a Spider-Man fan's wet dream. There's no nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia. Everything feels so put together, and I love that this movie has the focus on Miles, but it also is Gwen's movie. Without Gwen working so well in this movie and without having significant backstory to Gwen, this movie does not work as well as it does. It is so beautifully animated. You could tell that they put so much love and care into the animation. I would be shocked if this movie loses for Best Animated Film of the Year. But there is another animated film at number one that I think, as great as Spider-Verse was this year, it was number one for a while until I saw this next film. And people are probably going to be shocked when I say that this is the number one film of the year. But I do think that this one should also be nominated for Best Animated Film of the Year. Whether it'll win, we'll see. But coming in at number one, Neona. What do I say about Neona? This one is a movie that feels rooted in the past, present, and future. It feels like we could go here as a futuristic society, but what sticks out for me, other than the characters and the animation for Neona, is the theme of being an outsider and being an outcast and rebelling away from that. Becoming your own person and being the person that you know you can be. That's the big takeaway I got from Neona. While Nemona's backstory is heartbreaking because she is eventually made to be an outsider and an outcast, or, what somebody would call her, a freak or a monster, I felt like that was very relatable. There are times in my life where I have felt like that, where I have felt like I'm on the outside looking in, where I feel like I'm not getting a clear picture as to why everybody is doing what they're doing or why nobody is talking to me. This movie made me realize, okay, I'm not the only one this happens to. I feel like Neona in some sequences like that, and that is why Neona is my favorite movie of the year, because it spoke to me on a personal level. So guys, those are my best movies of the year. What are your favorite or best movies of the year? Drop them in the comment section below. Top 10, top 15. I almost went top 20 too. I'm just going to say that right now. So however you feel, let me know. I will leave my link to my website in the description below as well. Here's to another fantastic year of movies. I hope we'll see what 2024 has in store for us. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.